So should I? So we are here for the final defense of Mihir Vakharia ji, and the topic is impact of climate change on vernacular architecture of Pune region. And Pankaj Chabra sir has kindly consented. He is here for the external verification. Sir is head of department GNDU. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And with your permission, may we start? Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Mihir Vakharia. I am pursuing my PhD under the supervision of Dr. Ramendra Kaur Madam. Title for my PhD thesis is Impact of Climate Change on Vernacular Architecture of Pune region. Content for the PPT is Introduction, Literature Review, Vernacular Architecture of Pune, Methodology, Simulation Models, Base Case versus Improved Case, Conclusion and Recommendations, Publication and Acknowledgement. Topic for the introduction. India had about 31% of population living in urban areas in 2010. And by 2050, that percentage is projected to rise up to 50%, adding 441 million more people to the urban population. At the same time, the demand for the housing is also growing simultaneously. That makes it the possibility to think about the housing strategies which is needed. The Pune, which is located in the Maharashtra, is also facing a rising temperature. The article published by the Hindu, which is climate change is already making India hotter, states that by from 1950 to 1990, the temperature rise which we have observed is about 0.39 to 0.52 degrees Celsius, which raises the serious concern. The report published by the TERI, the Energy Resource Institute, in 2014 stated that by 2030 the rising temperature will be 1 degree to 1.7 degrees Celsius, and it will go up to 3 degrees Celsius by 2070. So considering that, and also we are observing that the Maharashtra is also facing the housing demand, which is actually the need of the hour to study the passive design strategies, which make this study more reliable to go for the further investigation. For investigation, we actually studied the Pune climatic zone. Considering a Köppen's Köppen's climatical classification, the Pune stands with the tropical savanna climate, which stated it have categories with the hot summers, distinct monsoon seasons, and mild dry winters. In summers, the temperature ranges up to 37 degrees Celsius with the humidity 36 to 50%. Monsoon, the temperature varies from 24 to 30 degrees Celsius, whereas humidity is high up to 82%. And winters, the average temperature is about 21 degree to 25 degrees Celsius with a moderate humidity. Vada, which is the vernacular house form in the Pune region, stands with the cultural identity, offering a climate responsive, social, spatial and sustainable design solutions. The thermal performance of the traditional house form and its thermal characteristics are being researched in this study. This study investigates the thermal performance of our traditional Vada houses in the Pune, utilizing the simulation models, validating and analyzing the climate change scenarios for 2050 and 2080. Research flow. So research started with the research design with the seasonal climate variations to understand what are the rising temperature in the region. The literature which we have studied is it covers the main important topics like thermal characteristics, climate change resilience, and the future climate change scenarios. On the basis of this too, we have framed our research questions, research objectives, and scope and limitations. We have investigate the vernacular architecture forms of a Pune region with respect to passive design strategies, VADA layouts, case studies, and the sample size selection. For research methodology, the research methodology is basically divided into three categories. First, to identify the rising temperature of a Pune, then to relate it with the vernacular house form. Second, for the validation of the simulation, we also install the data loggers to understand the real-time scenarios in the VADAs. Third, by utilizing the climate change scenarios which were developed by the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, we actually describe the future weather scenarios for 2050 and 2080, through which we have done the improved case simulation models. Result analysis, with the rising temperature, we have actually studied the 30 years temperature variation using IMD weather data. Second, weather simulations for base case, which we have validated with the hashtag guidelines. So future simulations to understand what will be a future scenarios of these buildings and propose the new strategies based on the improved case model. On the basis of this, we have derived the conclusion and recommendations. Literature review and the research gap. For literature review, we mainly focus on the thermal characteristics of a vernacular architecture, climate responsive vernacular architecture as a bioclimatic design and its resilience to climate change, thermal performance in future climate change scenarios. So, in category 1, that is thermal characteristics, we actually discuss about the quantitative simulation analytics, qualitative and comparative design. In this, we got to know that despite a 12-degree outdoor temperature fluctuation, the indoor stayed between 26 to 30 degrees Celsius. Courtyard 5 degree cooler than the outside indoor, and the RH is stable. Second, the important statement which we got is data, the user survey. The occupants in traditional homes reported greater thermal comfort temperature readings, which shows a higher 2 to 3 degrees Celsius than the modern buildings. Second, climate responsive vernacular architecture as a bioclimate design and its resilience to climate change. In this, we have observed that the mud walls with thatch roof shows a high energy efficiency, high thermal mass and ventilation enhanced comfort. Passive solar heating and thermal comfort mass regulates temperature. Vernacular forms efficiently use the natural resources year around. For the third, thermal performance in future climate change scenarios, we have observed the climate change scenarios for the different zones, which is like for Pune, for other zones like from Hong Kong, China, and Ahmedabad, etc., where the first remote sensing and urban heating analysis is done for the Pune only, which stated that from 1990 to 2019, the built-up which is increased to 43%. Summer land surface temperature increases by 5.8%. 12.4 urban rural land surface temperature gap which is identified. Now, based on the field investigation, author Khadija stated that vernacular home maintains the 23 to 31 degree indoor across climate zones, outperforms the RCC homes in future scenarios as well. High thermal mass plus control heat flow system raises the indoor air temperature passively, no mechanical heating required. And the last, cooling hours, 60% heating period, 33% under high greenhouse emission scenarios. Now, when we got a review from the expert, which states that we have to discuss one more category, what is the different climate zone scenarios in the vernacular architecture of a Indian scenario in Indian context. So we have discussed this with the help of different zones. What are the different precision strategies and major findings? So mainly I am covering the important ones. Like Delhi, which actually discuss about the tropical climate of Kerala, says that courtyard shaded veranda pitch roof actually gives a 3 to 4 degrees Celsius reduction in indoor temperature compared to outdoor, and as well as maintain the indoor humidity. As well as the others are the Rajpakasha in her paper says that high thermal mass walls, night ventilation actually gives the 2.5 degrees below outdoor temperatures and heat retention at the night. Now, research gap. While discussing the research mainly discusses about the climate responsive strategies, energy optimization, climate resilient housing and vernacular architecture. However, the existing studies on warm humid vernacular house do not address the impact of climate change and temperature rise on the Pune's architecture. So, climate change and rising temperature challenges the resilience of vernacular architecture, while Vada House in the Pune have traditionally offered thermal comfort through passive design. Their future effectiveness is uncertain. This study assesses the performance under the projected climate scenarios for 2050 and 2080 to identify vulnerabilities and proposes the adaptive strategies. The aim is to derive insights from vernacular design that can inform modern architecture by bridging the traditional wisdom with the contemporary needs. The research will also will offer recommendations for climate resilient, energy efficient buildings. Based on the gap, we frame the research question. What are the implications of the rising temperature on vernacular house form of the Pune region? With the objectives to analyze the nature of climate change and its impact on the vernacular architecture for future scenarios considering rising temperature in Pune. To assess and compare the thermal performance of the traditional Vada houses and their improved climate responsive strategies through simulation under future climatic scenarios. And the third, to develop the practical guidelines for modifying the Vadas to improve thermal comfort while preserving their traditional architecture character. Scope and limitations. Under the scope and limitations, the study is mainly focusing on the analyzing the thermal characteristics of a Vada house envelope in Pune's climate context and evaluate the effectiveness of passive design features in maintaining the thermal comfort. The assessment is done for the impact of future climate scenarios for 2050 and 2080 on Vada houses with respect to rising temperature. The limitations are the study is limited to thermal performance of Vada architecture only, excluding urban variables. For rising temperature, the data which we realize are on the IMD weather data only. Now, vernacular architecture of Pune. Vernacular architecture of a Pune, which mainly we call as a Vada, is derived from the Sanskrit word Vata, which means a plot of a land or a piece of a land. In this we can see there are two types of Vada, one with the two courtyards, one with the front yard or a rear yard, and one at a center. The Vadas typologies are mainly discussed when we say which type of Vada we are dealing with. The two Vadas with the two courtyards, the Rajvada is the place where there are mainly in frontal areas. In frontal areas, when we observe the public and semi-public activities, whereas a rear yard we can observe the activity for the family, which is restricted to the family persons only. Now, when we are saying the courtyard, which were introvertly designed, right, have main source of light and ventilation for these Vadas, because these Vadas are mainly designed to defend themselves when the intruders attacks, because this philosophy was developed during the Mughal and the Marathas. The main characteristics are the courtyards with verandas, terraces, attic spaces, and the thicker wall sections which provide the thermal length. Now, based on this, when we discuss the Rajvadas, for the finalization of Rajvadas, we have first selected the 5 Rajvadas which were there. So they are Vishrambag Vada, Ranade Vada, Chafekar Vada, Nagarkar Vada, and Thakur Vada. We have defined the orientation, structure, plan form, construction type, number of floors, passive design strategies, and types of door windows. At the same time, we have also discussed the floor roof forms, front elevations, a renovation done or not, because we need to have the originality of the form when we are analyzing those forms. The courtyard proportions and the built-up. On the basis of this, we have selected the Ranade Vada for further analysis. The Ranade Vada is why we say selected, because there is no renovation done in this particular Vada. At the same time, this Vada is actually occupied by the occupants from last 30 years. So it becomes essential that this Vada is functioning as a house form only, and at the same time, it is not done any renovation, so maintaining the characteristics of the vernacular form. So at the same time, when we discuss about the Vadas, we have found while dealing with the one type of typologies of Vadas, we also thought should we add 2 more smaller Vadas to have a comparative analysis of all 3 Vadas to make this study more reliable. Because when we discuss this with the experts comments was we can't say with the just one Vada how the Vadas are performing. You need to give it the different Vada scales. So we have selected the Purandar Vada and Gokhale Vada. These are the drawings for the Vadas. Ranade Vada having 2 courtyards. It's a G+1 structure with the attic. Purandar Vada is a small Vada with the rear yard and the front yard with the attic space. Gokhlewala don't have any front yard because they have a front axis and the rear yard. This is the only G+2 structures that we have found. This is the internal photos of this particular all three vadas. Ranade Vada with the front and the rear yards, and the Purandar Vada with the existing conditions. While studying in detail, we found that all these vadas are 100+ years, maintaining the vernacular character. There is no character change. All the three vadas are load-bearing structures only, with having all the typical characteristics of the vada, with the lattice window, with the roof form, and the most important thing is kind of projected balconies. Now, when we went for ahead to justify the sample size, we have discussed this all three vadas have the main characteristics of the vada, which stands with the vernacular details, and that's why by analyzing the multiple case studies with the similar yet distinct features, the research ensures the triangulation, enhancing the validity and reliability of a finding. The sample size is also justified by the need to evaluate the both existing base case and improved case scenarios. To add more contrasting character, two more vadas were being added, like Purandar and Gokhlewala, to give this study more impactful. Research methodology. Research methodology, we started with the what are the different steps that we have to perform to achieve objective 1, objective 2 and objective 3. In objective 1, we started with the literature review, then we visited the Pune various vernacular sites to identify the vernacular vada house forms, the selection criteria. Now, at the same time, we need to understand what is the rising temperature in the current quarters. So we have visited the IMD with us departments to get a data for minimum and maximum monthly temperature ranges, so to identify what is the thermal temperature variation. Then we also discuss the bioclimatic analysis using the climate consultant to understand what are the key strategies which will be important to go further. Then for a simulation model, we place the data loggers in all three vadas to understand what is the real-time scenarios. Then we have validated these three models with the ASHRAE guidelines. Then we generated the future weather data with the help of climate model, which was developed by the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. And at last, we have gone for the analysis for this case. Under objective 2, we mainly discuss the improvised strategies which we have discussed with the climate consultants tool. So incorporated these guidelines in the simulation model to develop the improved case. And for objective 3, we have proposed the recommendations for the what should be a retrofitting strategies we should adopt for this particular house. Now, step 1, study with the rising temperature. For this, we have gone through 30 years of data from 1990s to 23, where we have discussed the peak summer temperature, average summer temperature, and the overall temperature ranges. We have found that there is a increase in the temperature, which states by 2023 the rising temperature is around 1.5 degrees Celsius. At the same time, it is also discussed by various studies which stated by 2013 to 2014 there is a rising temperature. So we have understood there is a rising temperature and we need to go for those ideas for the climate change scenarios. Now, for the future climate change scenarios, we have created a weather data files with the help of Excel-based tool. This Excel-based tool is generated by IPCC HAD CM3 models. In the figure, you can see that there is a tool. This is a world weather tool where we have to place the actual weather data file, and we have to give the climate change scenarios based on the IPCC. So we have given the scenarios, and through morphing we have generated the weather data file for the 2050 and 2080. For 2050 and 2080 we got this readings for the outdoor drivable temperature, minimum, maximum monthly temperatures, and the monthly temperature for minimum degrees Celsius. Now it says maximum temperature will rise up to around 5 degrees Celsius, but what we have observed that winter will be having a more difficulties because the minimum temperature ranges will be go higher. so which makes the winter more uncomfortable. Now, step number 3 for simulation and validation for the selected VADA. We have placed this STC data loggers in all 3 house forms. The data recordings are done for the Ranade VADA from April 22 to March 23, whereas for the readings were done for Gokhale VADA and Purandar VADA for the 1 week. For Gokhale VADA, Jan 25 to 25th Jan to 2nd of Feb, and 5th of Feb to 14th of Feb. So to measure the half hourly air temperature and humidity. These are some of the readings which we got for the Ranade VADA. The Ranade VADA reading says that the temperature, indoor temperature is very aligned with the type of outdoor temperature, but with the very minimum variations. Where the outdoor temperature which we have observed is having 15 to 18 degree swing, but at the same time indoor have a 6 to 8 degree only. Whereas humidity is also a kind which we have observed, humidity don't have that kind of impact on the VADAs. But at the same time, if you see, the data is also matches with the underground world weather data. So we have identified the temperature which or humidity which we got from the data loggers are very much syncing with the outdoor weather data which we are getting through underground. Now, on the basis of this learning, we started with the simulation model. So we have understood the basic simulation parameters for the wall, window, floor, flat roof, air change, and HVAC. In this case, we don't have any HVAC. So these are the 3 simulation models. First is the Ranade VADA, second is the Gokhale VADA, and third is first is the Purandar VADA, second is the Gokhale VADA, and third is the Ranade VADA. Ranade VADA and Gokhale VADA both have a projected balconies, so which we have developed with the help of component models. Now, for the simulation validation, we have discussed the ASHRAE guidelines, which we have the 2 types of errors which we have to find it out. One is a mean bias error, and second is a coefficient of variation of the root mean square error. In ASHRAE, it gives a clear idea. If you are going a monthly, the mean bias error should be plus minus 5%, and if the hourly calibration you are doing, it should be 10. And for CV coefficient of variation root mean square error, it should be 15, and for hourly it is 30. So on the basis of this, we have observed the data for the Ranade VADA for the whole year. So we can easily see both the conditions we are mitigating, and this model is fit for the further studies. For other 2 models, Purandar VADA and Gokhale VADA, we have actually done the weekly analysis for the temperature, where the red line is the recorded temperature and the blue line is red line is recorded and the blue line is predicted, which we are seeing it is very much aligned to a real-time data. And at the same time, we have also observed the mean bias error is around 4.3%, and CV RMAC is around 11.76%, which is also lying with the range in the ASHRAE. Because when we consider hourly data, both the models are in the fit for the further studies. Now, step 4, we are going for the further detailed analysis for all these 3 VADAs. So first is the Purandar VADA. The ground floor during a peak summer, indoor temperature reach a maximum up to 35 to 37 degrees Celsius, and while in winter it drops to 15 to 17 degrees Celsius. Whereas the upper floor, the maximum temperature on other floor, particularly in attic, reaches up to 37 to 39 degrees Celsius in the peak summer, while other rooms experience a slightly lower temperature, which are in the range of 34 to 37 degrees Celsius. In the winter, the minimum temperature which we have observed is a 16 to 18 degrees Celsius. For the Gokhale VADA, the ground floor reaches approximately 34 to 36 degrees Celsius, while in winter it goes to 15 to 17 degrees Celsius. For the upper floors, 36 to 38 degrees Celsius, and for winters is a 17 to 20 degrees Celsius. For Ranade VADA, it's approximately 35 to 37 degrees for the ground floor in the summers and 15 to 17 in the winters. For upper floors, it goes to from 36 to 39 degrees Celsius, and for winters it is 16 to 18 degrees Celsius. So by analyzing all these things, we can easily state that ground floor temperature is in a range from 35 to 37 degrees Celsius, whereas ground floor minimum temperature we can say 15 to 17 degrees Celsius. Ground floor observations are for Puranthivara, it's a moderate variation due to passive design. Thermally stable ground floor better than upper floors for the Goklevada, and the Ranadevada more stable due to two courtyards and effective ventilation. For upper floors, it is due to attic, it goes to 24 to 30 degrees Celsius average temperature for all the three cases. For the upper floor remarks, the significant fluctuations due to attic floors. So considering this, the courtyard effect is significant, particularly in Ranadevara, whereas two courtyard enhance the air circulations, reducing indoor temperature by 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. Now, to quantify these things which we are discussing in terms of temperature, we have discussed in terms of comfort hours. For the comfort hours, we have done the hourly analysis on the basis of IMAC-R, which stands for Indian Model for Adaptive Comfort for Residential Buildings. Now, in this model, we can easily state that this model is derived by the Professor Rajan Ravan in 2022, which gives acceptability limits for 80% and 90% people. So, with the neutral temperature, we can get the 90% acceptability and 80% acceptability. The equation which we studied is temperature neutral equals to 0.42 with the temperature outdoor with a 30-day running mean plus 17.60. On the basis of this, we have derived the temperature limits with respect to 90% and the 80%. So if we see, this is the line where we are getting a neutral temperature. With 90%, we can say for January it's at 23.6 degree to 27 degree, people will feel comfortable. For 80% acceptability, we can find 22.1 degree to 29.3 degree, which is the range of 80% people which will feel comfortable. So by analyzing this data, we have found the early April, May and June months are suffering more in terms of comfortable hours for 2050 and 2080. Now we have done the analysis for VADAs on the basis of ground floor and the upper floor spaces. This graph which we have created have the main three parameters. First is the space, ground floor, first floor, ground floor courtyard, first floor courtyard, ground floor living and the first floor living for three different scenarios. First is the present scenario, second is by 2050 and third is by 2080. In this we can easily observe we are seeing the drop in comfortable hours with going with the future scenarios. Mainly in months of May, June and July, we are finding the minimum comfortable hours in terms of 2050 and 2080 scenarios. For upper floor, we are finding the very less as compared to ground floor, where we are getting 7,406 yearly hours as a comfort hours. We are getting hardly 6,366 hours for the upper floors for the Puranthivara. For the Goklevada, we have observed the similar trend, but in this case the drop in comfort hour is more for the future scenarios, where we can easily find the first floor living which is having a 5,668 hours as a comfortable hours is dropping to 3,334, almost half we can say. So this is the which we are getting with the Goklevada, which need interventions. For the Ranadevada, we are also finding the difficulty with the upper floors, but in this case the ground floor is very much in the align with the comfort hours without any significant change in terms of climate change scenarios, where the upper floors having a very decline scenarios. So when we are comparing, so for Puranthivara it's dropping from 4.5% to 9.4% for future scenarios 2050 and 2080. For Gokle, which we have saw, have increased from 8% to 16% for 2050 and 2080, and for Ranadevada it is 4.5% to 8.6%. Now, based on this, when we have derived the base case, now we are moving for the improved case strategies. For the improved case, we have actually discussed the climate, we have actually deal with the climate consultant tool to identify the comfort strategies for the future scenarios. We stated the thermal mass effectiveness, solar heat gain control, ventilation and airflow management, roof and wall insulation, dehumidifications. So by integrating this, we have converted this into a scenarios for the external wall and the flat roof. We have added the insulation 75 mm, so to make it more stable. For internal walls, we actually converted the U value, which is quite higher, with the help of AAC blocks. Then for pitch roof, we have added the reflective clay tiles and the insulation materials. But to maintain the character of the vada, we have not changed the plaster type. The plaster which we have kept is the vernacular plasters not to deviate from the actual vernacular features of the house. We also added the air change. Earlier it was the 3 air change per hour. Now it's a 5 air change per hour, and we have added the dehumidifications because in the monsoon we are finding there is a rise in humidity levels. So mitigate this through climate consultant, we have find if we add dehumidification, we can get the more comfortable hours. So by using this, but we are not adding any heating and cooling strategies in our simulation model. Now on the basis of this, we can see the increase in the 2080 and the 2050 scenarios for the upper floor as well. For all 3 cases. So by doing this, we have identified that there is an increase in comfort hours for the improved case. If we find earlier which we are getting 12,901 overall comfortable hours for all the spaces, which is increased to 13,209. So by adding this, we can say the Gokhale Vada, which having a very less comfortable hours for the upper floors, are getting much higher while adding those strategies. Objective recommendations. So we have, on the basis of climate consultant and the design builder improved version, we have discussed the future strategies are on the basis of thermal mass optimization and insulation, where we added the insulation layer and replaced the ACC block with the normal brick walls. Then the roof insulation and passive heat dissipation, we have added the reflective materials in attics and to reduce the internal heat buildup. For improved ventilation and airflow, we have we have improved the value of air change by 5. For monsoon dehumidification, we have added the dehumidifications that mainly increases the comfort hours in Gokhale Vada and Ranade Vada. By this, these are some through sketches we have discussed the strategies. First one is the thermal mass and insulation integration, where we have placed the external and internal as a vernacular plasters only. We have added the insulation with the XPS 75 mm. We have also replaced the brick material with the AC blocks, and at the same time we have also got a thinner section than the actual section. Actual section was 350, now we are getting 310 only. For roofing, we have added the clay tiles with the reflective, so increase the solar radiation, so to decrease the solar radiation impact on the build form. We also added the sort of air cavity in between the insulation, so we don't have the direct we can have the improved ventilation rate also. At the same time, we have replaced the traditional roofing style with the aerated concrete slab to reduce the weight of the slab, as well as to place the to have a good U value. For the further, which we have improved, that we through these strategies we have actually placed the vent in the attic spaces to improve stack ventilation in the vadas. So through this we can increase the ventilation rate in the within the building site. With this, we gone through a conclusion. Okay, though there is a rise in temperature by 2080. But at the same time, VADA were traditionally designed to provide thermal comfort in Pune climate condition by integrating elements like sunken windows, wooden jalis, screens, projected balconies and internal courtyards. These features actually help to regulate the indoor temperature by promoting cross ventilation and reducing the direct heating. Now, key findings of the research is that while VADAs inherently possesses climate adaptive features, they require targeted enhancement to sustain their thermal efficiency, by which we have already discussed in the improved case. The study compared the base case VADAs with the climate responsive retrofitting strategies under future temperature projections for 2050 and 2080. The result reveals a decline in passive cooling effectiveness due to increasing outdoor temperature requiring additional interventions such as improved roof insulation, optimizing shading devices and enhancing airflow management. For with the improved case, what we get is for the Pune VADA demonstrate the highest stability across all the seasons with effective ventilation and insulation that maintain indoor comfort. Gokhale VADA, while benefiting from the thermal mass improvement, exhibit overheating issues in upper floors due to restricted airflows. Ranade VADA faced the most significant heat gain challenge, particularly in attic spaces due to insufficient roof insulation and shading management. Without interventions, the adaptive comfort are projected to decrease from 50% to 22% and up to 11% in 2080. The comparative analysis between the base and improved case of Purandar, Gokhale and Ranade VADA reveals a significant enhancement in thermal comfort following the implementation of climate responsive strategies. Across all the three VADAs, ground floor spaces benefit the most from the passive cooling measures, including improved ventilation, increased thermal mass, utilization and strategic shading. In contrast, upper floors spaces remain more susceptible to climate-induced heat stress, especially for 2080. Now, some of the recommendations for future design which we can discuss is like enhancing passive cooling for future climatic resilience by improving the U values, advanced roof and wall insulation techniques, adaptive fenestration and dynamic shading systems, optimization, ventilation and hybrid cooling systems. Recommendations for future designs for architects: integrate passive cooling features like courtyard, shading devices and ventilated roof from VADA architecture into new designs. Use climate simulation tools to assess a future thermal performance. Specify material with low U values. Use breathable climate responsive materials such as lime mortar. Plan interior layouts to enhance the natural ventilation and reduce heat retention. Incorporate vernacular shading elements. For the government agencies, incentives should be introduced for retrofitting of heritage structures with passive design upgrades. Integrate green infrastructure and passive cooling into urban planning policies. Mandate climate performance assessment for a new development. For architectural institutions, include climate adaptive vernacular design and simulation tools in curriculum. Promote research and studios focus on retrofitting heritage buildings. Collaborate with the local authorities for field-based conservation and climate resilience projects. Further research can be done for the vernacular buildings are performance of retrofit VADA in terms of energy efficiency under the future climate change scenarios, impact of urban east-land effect on VADA neighborhoods and suggest a suitable environmental improvements. Review the effectiveness of natural daylight and ventilation features as the outdoor temperature and humidity increase. For contemporary residential buildings, analyzing the impact of passive design and insulation on energy efficiency under future climate scenarios. Assess how building layouts and materials contribute to urban heat island effect and suggest alternative design to reduce the effect. Review the performance of daylight and natural ventilation strategies in modern homes as a climate condition changes. Understand how residents respond to climate adaptive features in new housing for a better user-focused design. These are the changes which we got for our final submission from reviewer 1, reviewer 2 and action taken on the basis of that. So we have added instead of one VADA, we got to explain.
Already have.
So these are the publications. The paper which got published in the Francis and Taylor have all the details for Rana de Vada. This is the climate responsive vernacular Vada housing for India, which published in AIP, which is also a Scopus Index conference proceeding. One paper is published in the UGC listed journal. One paper published in Web of Science Index journal. This is the journal which earlier was a Scopus Index, but when published it was not in a Scopus Index. So this is the journal paper. This two conference. The first one, the first conference which we have attended is for the which is hosted by LPU only, and second which is hosted by Symbiosis. These are the references which we have used for the particular PPT. Acknowledgement. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to late Dr. Mahendra Joshi sir and Dr. Ramendra Kaur madam for unwavering the guidance and patience throughout my study. Mainly sincere thanks to Dr. Atul Singla sir to make the study more challenging, more interesting in terms of adding more details in terms of VADA justification. I also like to give the acknowledgement to the owners of Rana de Vada, Gokhale Vada and Purantar Vada to document their Vada and to place the loggers. While placing the loggers, it becomes difficult for them also because they don't know about this logger. So we have to actually get their confidence, and they actually give us the permission. So with this, I also like to thank my parents, Naresh Vakharia and Jayashri Vakharia, for their blessings and constant encouragement with my precious journey. My children, Ronak and Sakshi, and my wife, Bijal. I would also like to thank Dr. Gauri Shirurkar, the director of School of Architecture, Urban Development Planning. Because of her permissions and all, I have constantly came for the ATP reviews and all the guidance for the, even she's a conservation architect, so he also gives the ideas about the relevance of the VADA in the modern terms. Dr. Shahid Ahmed, he is the person who actually helped me to understand the statistical scenarios, okay, how to get the linear regression and how to deal with the error, mean bias error and the root mean square error. Also, I would like to thank, now it's architect Dhananjay Chaudhary sir, Dr. Abhijit Mahwa sir, my friend Nikhil Mehere, because we got an admission in the same year and we are being a constant support of with this, it became possible for me to pursue my PhD. And I would also like to sincerely thank all those people which are not listed over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mihir, for the very comprehensive presentation. May I now open the floor for questions, starting with Pankaj sir.
It's a nice presentation, very well articulated, but I have just few queries in my mind, as well as I have got the duty to ask questions on behalf of other examiners also, as well as my questions. So before proceeding to those questions, I would want to ask you 3-4 things.
Yes.
First thing, there was a common comment of both the examiners that you should increase the number of case studies. That is, only one case study was there. I think that comment was from my side also, and the second examiner gave the same comment. And you have increased it from 1 to 3. Okay. So why are you so much rigid in increasing the scope of case studies? Because it's a doctorate study, it would have been 6 to 7 case studies that you would have comparatively made. That would have made the study more elaborative and exhaustive. Any
Yes,
take
sir.
on this?
So the thing is, again, I will go back to the comments received from the external reviewers. So the external reviewers gave us an idea while adding a case study, we should consider the typologies of a VADA.
Yeah.
So one typology is a Rajvada.
I have read those comments.
Yes,
They're
sir.
always been marked over here.
Yeah, yes, sir. So
Just let me know your answer.
sir, the thing is, considering the suggestions which we received in January, 2025 only. So when we gone and in detail, we found that we need to understand that we just don't want to simulate the buildings. We want to study the actual scenarios and to get a real-time data. So to get a real-time data and to discuss with the people, again the time is the main constraint. Second, the most important thing is which we got with the idea we have to consider the typologies to understand if this what is the impact of climate change on smaller vadiyas, medium sized vada and the large sized vada. So on the basis of this, with the discussion with the guide and of course under her guidance only, we have decided we should go with the 3 typologies.
Can you go to the slide number 31?
So,
उसमें ले आओ, प्रेजेंटेशन मोड में ले आओ, प्रेजेंटेशन मोड में ले आओ।
yes sir.
जब आपने इसका सारा डाटा लिया, आपने डेट्स लिखी हुई है January 25 to Feb 2.
Sir, yes sir, sir, January 25 है.
Let's recall this. नहीं, that is not me.
Yeah.
February 5 to February 14.
Yes sir.
Why you have not taken the data during the summer months?
Sir, again, please try to understand the thing is when we are to simulate now, ASHE guidelines clearly states we need to validate a model. Once we validate a model now, then the model itself gives an ideas about the summer and winter months. So by doing this, we have validated the real-time scenarios.
मैं यही पूछ रहा हूँ।
Yes sir.
And one more thing. एक आपकी स्टडी में मेरे को जो क्वेश्चंस पे आ रहा हूँ, उसके बाद लास्ट पॉइंट है मेरे को, आपके जो कंक्लूजन्स आ रहे हैं,
Yes sir.
आपको कमेंट में भी आया, मेरी तरफ से भी आया, नेक्स्ट सेकेंड एग्जामिनर की तरफ से भी आया, उसके अंदर आपकी स्पेसिफिसिटी कम अभी भी वो लैक करती है, जैसे कि with proper sections and with all those things that is not there available in it. Being a thesis of an architecture, आपको उसके एलिमेंट्स की आपने डिटेल में ज़्यादा बात नहीं की, लेकिन आपके कंक्लूजन में वो एलिमेंट्स रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहे हैं। अगर आप अपने कंक्लूजन में जाते हैं, तो अभी मैं आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन देख रहा था, तो देख रहा था 62 स्लाइड नंबर 62। हाँ जी, इसके अंदर अगर आप बात करते हो तो थर्ड कंक्लूजन देखो अपना रिकमेंडेशन, अडेप्टिव फेनेस्ट्रेशन एंड डायनामिक शेडिंग सिस्टम्स।
Yes sir.
लेकिन अगर आपने स्टडी की, आपने जो सिमुलेशन दिखाया, आपने वॉल का दिखाया, आपने रूफ का दिखाया,
Yes sir.
लेकिन आपने इनकी सिमुलेशन के ऊपर कोई स्टडी में बात नहीं की डिटेल में, लेकिन कंक्लूजन में आप सीधे जंप कर रहे हो उसके ऊपर। दैट शुड बी कमिंग फ्रॉम योर स्टडी,
Sir.
which is not there in that. अगर है तो दिखा दो, मैं से मिस हो गया हो शायद।
Sir, actually, when we go for the air change hours, for that we have improved the shading strategy in this particular time. We have in simulation model we have adopt the strategy when we have getting a comfortable hours, the window is going to open, and for that.
My question
yes.
is not. My
Yes, sir.
question is that thing is not reflecting in your study, but is coming in your conclusions.
Reflecting, but sir,
My question is not ki what is going on or what is
yes,
the
sir, but
process.
sir, actually,
My question is very specific.
sir, actually we have improved the air change hour on the basis of that only, sir.
Okay, but
Yes,
it
sir.
should have been reflected in your study. That is not there. Whatever is in the conclusion should be there in your study in the backdrop,
Okay, sir.
or that should have been there in study.
Yes, sir.
Because fenestration and low and high pressure areas
Yes,
and
sir.
how the cross ventilation happens,
Yes, sir.
that things should be there.
Yes.
So let us come to the questions. Before that, Atul sir wants to say any comments.
You can finish off the file, take other questions.
So should we start with the questions of examiners?
Sure.
So the second examiner has said कि I will just check whether my above comments have been incorporated or not. In the second report, he asked questions.
Yes, sir.
In the second report, he asked the questions. I am asking the questions of the second examiner. I have just clicked one or two questions that I feel is relevant. His specific question was, how on ground the different types of vadas can be retrofitted?
Sir, can you repeat the question, please?
How on ground the different types of vadas can be retrofitted?
Can be retrofitted. Yeah. Sir, while discussing with the owners, we discussed this point also. Okay, what are the difficulties they are getting? Because the generation which was staying over there, right? The younger generations don't want to live in this particular vada. They have some constraint with the room areas, privacy and those. But the major constraint was the maintenance issue with the vadas. Okay, the material which was constructed 100 years back now is not available. They don't have a workmanship. So when we discuss this point, are they willing to go for the retrofitting in terms of material improvisation? So they said yes, but at the same time they don't want to change the character of the vernacular house form. So while discussing with the conservation architects, Professor Vaisali Latkar and my director Dr. Gauri Shirukar, the conservation architects can help us to deal with those strategies, and we can place this as a retrofitting strategies for the vernacular house. Because the conservation architects are the architects who can give us more detailed ideas about how to convince these people, because they are dealing with these scenarios only, sir.
His continuity in this question is what you are saying is architectural solutions do not translate to actually implementable solutions on the ground. Then the purpose of the research is not fully met with. जो आपने आंसर बोला है वो आगे उन्होंने continuity में लिख दिया.
The thing is, sir, when we started the study, we need to understand, we want to understand what is the future scenarios and how this is going to impact on the build form. So while dealing with the build form, we found to get a character of the climate, the vernacular house forms are more prominent because they are designed considering the climate responsive strategies with the natural ventilation only. So we have selected those things, and retrofitting is discussed as I mentioned in my previous answer only, while dealing with the clients, we need to address these things, the character should not be changed.
Okay, chalo. One more question.
Yes, sir, please.
You have used a basic theme of temperature.
Yes, sir.
Whether you have taken humidity into consideration?
Sir, for the data loggers analysis, I have considered humidity levels. When I am going for the thermal comfort aspects, now for adaptive thermal comfort, I have utilized the temperatures mainly, operative temperatures to get a comfortable hours. But I have also analyzed the humidity also.
Humidity, have you taken?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You have not shown it.
So the thing is humidity, when we observe for the adaptive thermal comfort, it becomes a very.
When you go to bioclimatic chart.
Yes, sir.
It comes with a combination of temperature.
Yes, sir. I can show
you.
No, sir.
Leaving humidity.
No, sir. I have not used any humidity.
But you have not mentioned over here.
Sir, I have not added that analysis because this presentation is become more elaborate.
But in thesis also.
Yes, sir.
It is not there.
No, sir. Climate conservation charts we have placed, sir. Climate conservation chart we have placed, sir.
That is there, but humidity, as far as comparative study, you have not taken along with it. That's a parallel thing. This is the temperature, this is the humidity. This temperature, this is the humidity. The comfort level comes out over here.
So psychometric chart actually, climate controller deal with the psychometric chart only. So to get a comfort band, we need to have a value for humidity as well as the temperature, yeah, sir. So both the components we have compared while placing the comfort hours.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
ये क्वेश्चन आपसे ऑलरेडी मैं पूछ चुका हूँ, ये मेरा ही क्वेश्चन है, लेकिन आपने लिखा हुआ है, पहले मैंने अपना ही क्वेश्चन पूछा आपसे, क्योंकि मेरे को भूल चुका था कि 6 महीने पहले रिपोर्ट की, अब मेरे को याद नहीं। तो आपने कंपैरेटिव एनालिसिस किया 5 केस स्टडीज का।
यस सर।
अभी तो आपने फिर क्वेश्चन वहीं आकर रुकता है कि वाई ओनली 1 केस स्टडी को 1.3 पे ले गए, वाई नॉट ऑन 5?
सर
टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट मान लिया, आपका सेम आंसर आ चुका है मेरे को पहले।
ना सर के व्हेन आई डिड अ केस स्टडीज ना 5 केस स्टडीज, यू कैन ऑब्जर्व के अदर केस स्टडीज आर ऑलरेडी रिनोवेटेड. They have the now characters for RCC and other things, which will not give the relevance of the vernacular house forms. So on the basis of that 5 case studies, we have identified the Rana Nevada is more suitable for this one. And when we added 2 more case studies on the basis of typology, sir. When we are considering a typology, we have added 2 more case studies. But to get the actual study for the this.
So you have talked a lot about the modern technologies.
Sorry?
In your research methodology and objectives. आपकी रिपोर्ट में मैंने पढ़ा, यहाँ मेरे को याद नहीं है, लेकिन मेरे रिपोर्ट में पढ़ा, तभी मैंने लिखा हुआ है यहाँ पे। मेरा ही क्वेश्चन है, जब आपने कंक्लूजन्स पे आए तो उसमें आपने उसको ब्लेंड करने के लिए कुछ भी नहीं बोला।
सर which term sir?
Modern technologies.
Modern technologies, yes sir. Sir, again I'm coming back to that same answer.
into the building system.
Yes sir. Okay, people when we discuss this point with the people now, they are not ready to change with those
It
things.
is not a question whether people are ready or not.
Yes,
it is
sir.
a question, it is a research that is going on in the enclosed environment. You as a researcher, as a policy maker, you have
Yes,
to
sir.
give that blending. You are talking a lot about this in the research
Sir.
methodology as well as in objectives.
Sir,
But you are sidelined over this in the whole study.
So the thing is now sir, further study can be done with the modern technologies with the CFD analysis sir.
If you would-
Because for the
If
simulation.
you would have not mentioned in your methodology, we would
Yes,
not
sir.
have asked you this question.
Okay sir.
You have mentioned it in your objectives, you have mentioned it in your methodology, but it is totally missing in your study.
Okay sir. Because
would
we
have
have
been
added humidifications and
That
those things. So
if
these
people
are the
ready-
things here.
People are ready or not, that is separate.
Yes,
It
sir.
can be go to the future research, that is
Yes, sir.
separate. But if that would not have been taken place in your research objectives as well as methodology,
But sir, in terms, I have considered the dehumidation factors on the basis of that only, sir.
that's
It's
all
not
from my
yes, yes,
side.
sir.
I have done it.
Right, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind feedback. And any other questions from the panel? Please feel free. Sir, please. Sir.
Organization, you have shown so many some shower or something.
No, sir. All the graph which I have shown in the analysis part now are all created by me only, sir. I have not utilized any other source.
Okay, so some terms are confusing to me in technical word, and somewhere you mentioned that yes, peak temperature rises to 34 degrees, 37 degrees Celsius.
Yes, sir.
For me, it is only one temperature. That should peak 37 or 34. Why is 34 to 37?
So the thing is, why?
Otherwise, you should mention the month in month. This is 34, or in this month 37.
Sir, when I have discussed few points only, but when you observe in the analysis now, I have highlighted all the areas also. Okay, what is the average temperature that we are getting? What are the maximum temperature which we are getting? And what are the minimum temperature which we are getting for ground floor as well as upper floor, sir? All the points are plotted on the particular graph. With considering air temperature for ground floor, air temperature for courtyards, air temperature for ground floor living, and air temperature for the rooms also. So it gives an idea about the overall ground floor as well as the outdoor areas and semi-covered areas.
Okay, thank you. So, in the last, can you conclude in very brief what is the unique outcome of your study? What is wide study this is?
Sir, in terms of unique outcome, I must admit in front of you, okay, by adding the improvised strategies now, we are enhancing the features of the passive design. So, if we want to continue with those passive design strategies now, which we are right now saying are more relevant in present scenarios.
Some of the methods you have already mentioned, recommendation we already know.
Yeah.
What is the uniqueness from your side?
Sorry, sir.
What is the unique outcome of your study?
Unique outcome. हाँ sir, unique outcome in terms of Gokhale which we have found by adding the dehumidification now, the upper floor comfort hours are increasing by 25%. So dehumidification is the important component that we should add in actually for the monsoon months. So that is the unique thing which we got. Second uniqueness which we think is okay, by adding the insulation material, we can actually make the VADAs more thermal resistant.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you, Dr. Mihir.
Thank you, sir.
I formally announce you as Dr. Mihir.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Congrats.
Yes, thank you,
You
sir.
defended well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir has formally announced, but I'm going to just say a few words
हाँ sir, please sir.
because our association has been, what, more than a year now?
Sir, 2 years sir. From 23 we are discussing.
I am the culprit for that, right?
No sir. The thing is sir, because of your suggestions only, we actually got a very good justification for the sample size.
That's good. Okay, so I just wanted to say, because obviously sir has already recommended your thesis. So when you came, obviously you had this topic already in mind, you had already done a lot of work. And what I have to say about that is, first of all, your intentions. I think your intention to pick up a vernacular architecture form and then to study it and to have that thought behind it, how to make it work in contemporary times is credible. I think in your thesis you have tried to address that issue. There could be, obviously sir has also pointed out, there could be a gap between your study and your final recommendations, whether they are in line or not. But I commend your intentions at least.
Thank you sir.
And for example, could the strategies be vernacular? Could the strategies be in line with the vernacular? Could they be not cosmetic? Should they be something which is inherent to vernacular
Yes.
architecture? These are questions which you could address in further research as well.
Yes, sir.
Maybe in papers.
Yes sir.
What comes to also my mind is this topic something which is closer to climatology, or is it closer to conservation, architecture conservation? That again, because now you have your thesis already with you and you want to take it forward into paper writing, that is something which you could build on.
Yes sir.
Having already gotten in touch with a conservation architect,
Yes, sir.
would you like to take that forward? Is there enough scope? That is another thought which I am just putting in your mind.
Yes sir.
If you want to take that forward.
Yes.
So I think other issues Pankaj sir has already touched upon. So congratulations once again.
Thank you, sir.
And I hope you take this forward and become an expert on vernacular architecture, conserving vernacular architecture,
Yes.
and really build on this thesis
Yes.
in the future.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you sir.
Yeah. So you traveled together and now you'll go back together as doctors.